asked me about abortion. So you support abortion.
Absolutely.
And you support it. Do you support abortion? We didn't even talk about it, even though this is the point. You do?
Yeah.
You won't need one, though.
No, I won't need an abortion anytime.
And you might not either because you're transgender or non-binary.
Do you believe that transgender people are all celibate?
I'm just a little confused as to what non-binary.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I just stumbled across this clip of a heated debate between Michael Knowles and two college students on the definition of womanhood and gender identity, and honestly, you'll see just how quickly the entire gender ideology framework collapses when someone actually asks for a concrete definition. Make sure you watch until the end. The accidental admission at the end is wild. Please comment down where you're watching from. It's great to see people from all over the world connecting in here. All right, now let's get into the video.
I have yet to meet anybody.
I've yet to meet anyone.
I've seen people clipped out of context to look like that, but I haven't.
Those people are clipped talking to me. I mean, these are people, I promise you, I've spoken to these people on camera in some cases. But in any case, you don't feel that way.
I have
so
never
you're
felt that way.
You're non-binary. You said that you came to this realization at 14. What do you think kind of pushed you over that edge at 14?
I think intense emotional distress at the prospect of needing to navigate through life being someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's girlfriend, someone's wife, someone's mother. That's just something that wasn't really a role that I wanted to fill and a role that I felt intensely distressed at the prospect of needing to fulfill.
Why is that?
It's difficult to explain, and it would be difficult to explain in a very short period of time. It's just one of those things that you feel deep down in your soul.
You mean it would be difficult to explain even to yourself, or you're just saying it would be difficult to articulate this thing that I understand?
It's difficult to articulate. It's kind of an abstract thing.
The cause of gender dysphoria and this discomfort with your sex assigned at birth and these roles is still pretty widely debated, even in the woke scientific community.
Right. And there would seem to be, even among the pro-trans kind of woke, a presumed plurality, or multiplicity rather, of causes. Like some people can fall into this as a bit of a sexual fetish.
That isn't transgender, though. That's
some guys who dress up like women will openly state that they're the Wachowski brothers, who are now the Wachowski sisters, said they fell into their transgender identity largely through pornography, and others will say that as well. Now, you might say, well, it wasn't pornography. It was because of, I wanted to wear a dress when I was 4 years old or something. But I'm just saying, in some cases, it would appear to be more of a sexual fetish. For some people, it might be caused by some emotional distress. For some people, it might be caused by any number of other factors. Again, I'm just repeating what I've heard from the left. I'm not even stating.
I mean, the material.
I don't think the left says that.
The material.
The Wachowski brothers certainly do. And they're
two
trans
people.
The most famous transgender identifying people in the world.
Somebody wearing a dress with a male body.
Wildly false.
The material presence of a man in a woman's dress perhaps could come about as a sexual fetish. I think we agree on that, but I don't think that. I think what we're trying to say is that that's a very different thing than we're describing.
No, I guess that's what I'm saying too. That there are these. So we all agree there are these different causes for this kind of identity.
You're watching a logical collapse in real time. I want you to pay attention to what just happened in this exchange, because it's not just about definitions. It's about what happens when a framework gets pressed on and the contradictions start showing. So Michael asked a simple question. What does non-binary mean? And the answer that was given by Michael himself was, I am not a man or a woman regardless of what parts I was bestowed. Okay, so your body has nothing to do with it. That was confirmed. But then Demi jumps in and says that gender identity does describe a relationship to one's body. Wait, so which is it? Does the body matter or doesn't it? And then Michael does what he does best. He asks for the concrete definition. Because Demi just said, these aren't terms that mean whatever you want, that there's a concrete definition. So what is it? What is a transgender woman? And Demi said it's somebody who is assigned male at birth, who identifies and pursues womanhood. Okay, so what's womanhood? This is where it gets fascinating, because Michael literally said, not to sound like Matt Walsh, but what is womanhood then? And you can hear the setup, right? We all know where this goes. And Demi started with, I would describe womanhood as a very subjective concept. But Michael immediately caught it. You just said we're talking about concrete things. You can't have it both ways. So Demi tries again. Womanhood is a set of characteristics associated with females usually, but... Stop right there. Did you catch that? Females. Demi, who is a trans woman, just accidentally pointed back to biological sex as the reference point, not gender identity alone. Not purely subjective feelings, not just internal sense of self. The definition ended up circling back to females as the anchor. That's the tension right there, and it's worth examining.
You came not to talk about transgenderism. You asked me about abortion.
Mhm.
So you support abortion,
Absolutely.
and you support it. Do you support abortion? We didn't even talk about it, even though this is
Yeah.
the point. You do?
Yeah.
You won't need one, though.
No,
No.
I won't need an abortion anytime.
And you might not either because you're transgender or non-binary.
Do you believe that transgender people are all celibate?
I'm just a little confused as to what non-binary means.
Non-binary means I am not a man or a woman, regardless of what parts I was bestowed.
Okay. What you're saying is your body has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman.
Correct.
Okay.
I think oftentimes the gender identity does describe a relationship to one's body. For example, if I were to say I am a transgender woman, I'm directly asserting that I am a woman and that I have, male genitalia.
Or
And
you could have gone under
chromosomes.
the knife and lost your male genitalia.
I could have. Yeah.
So you could be asserting that too. So I guess that's what I'm saying. It seems like you could just, all of these terms just mean kind of whatever you want them to mean.
No, not really.
It's
Pretty
just-
concrete definition.
So you just said to be a transgender woman, I have to be wearing a dress or look like this, but
I didn't say I have to. I said that's just how I like
what's
to
the
express it.
concrete definition of a transgender woman?
Somebody who is assigned male at birth who identifies and pursues womanhood.
Okay. And what is womanhood? And not to sound like Walsh, but what is womanhood then? What does that
Womanhood?
mean in that statement?
I would describe womanhood as a very subjective
But you just
concept.
also said we're talking about things that are concrete, and that's all. I'm just trying to grab onto something. What is the actual definition of the thing that you are using to define transgenderism?
I would describe womanhood as a set of characteristics.
with these social expectations. Therefore, I am going to adhere to different social expectations that are generally
But that's not what
assigned
you're
to the
saying.
opposite sex.
You-
Yeah, it is.
No, you're not.
I'm saying
you're-
it right now.
Well, now you are, but that's not previously what you said. Previously, what you said was there are these different social expectations associated with being a woman, and I so wanted to avoid them that I no longer call myself a woman. Not that a woman can avoid those social expectations, but rather that the social expectations are so intrinsic to womanhood that I will no longer be a woman. I will be a non-binary they, them. That's what you said earlier. You see the conflict, the contradiction there.
Yes, I understand where your confusion.
Here's why this matters so much, and I need you to really understand the logical problem that just got exposed. If womanhood means characteristics associated with females, then the word female is doing the heavy definitional lifting. You're not defining womanhood independently, you're pointing back to biological sex and saying it's the patterns that females tend to have. But if that's the case, then what exactly are we talking about when we say transgender woman? Because by the definition Demi just gave, a transgender woman is someone assigned male at birth pursuing womanhood. But womanhood is characteristics associated with females. So you're pursuing characteristics associated with a biological category that's different from your own. That becomes less about identity and more about adopting social expressions of the opposite sex. And I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because it was Demi who gave us that definition. Not me, not Michael, Demi. In trying to give a concrete definition, the answer accidentally revealed how difficult it is to talk about gender without eventually referencing sex as a foundation. Every single time, and I mean every time, someone tries to define woman or man or womanhood or manhood without reference to biological sex, they tend to end up in one of two places. Either it becomes completely circular, where woman means someone who identifies as a woman, which doesn't actually tell us anything. Or they end up pointing back to sex like Demi just did, suggesting that biology was part of the equation all along. This isn't me being uncharitable. This pattern shows up repeatedly. Even scholars who support gender theory have acknowledged the difficulty of completely separating these concepts. The attempt to redefine these terms without their traditional biological anchors runs into logical problems pretty quickly. And here's where the burden of proof comes in. When people say a woman is an adult human female, they get called reductive or exclusionary. But when alternative definitions end up contradicting themselves within minutes or accidentally referencing biology anyway, why are the people using traditional definitions the ones who have to defend their position? If you're claiming that a word that has meant one thing throughout human history now means something fundamentally different, you need to provide a clear, consistent alternative. And I just know in my soul, or it's subjective but also concrete, doesn't meet that standard when you're asking for legal protections, medical interventions, and changes to sex-segregated spaces.
Tied up on, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about the issue that you wanted to talk about. Would you ever get an abortion?
I could come up with a circumstance in which I would. I highly doubt that such a circumstance would arise.
Why wouldn't you?
Mostly just because those circumstances, I've never been pregnant. I do not foresee being pregnant in my future.
Okay, but why wouldn't you in principle, I guess?
In principle, I have no issues with it. Past certain points of development, I do believe you can start ascribing personhood to a fetus.
What would the point be then?
What would the point be?
Because you said, look, there's a point at which I would start to ascribe personhood, and then presumably you wouldn't have the abortion. So what is that point?
I'm not a doctor. And, this isn't something that I've considered very much because, again, I don't foresee myself being pregnant.
Sure. But you intuit. I mean, you're obviously concerned about the issue of abortion. You showed up to this lecture tonight to ask me this long question about it. So you intuit that there is some point, at least, in gestation where the baby would be a person, and then it would be kind of wrong to abort the baby. So
that's me personally.
Yeah, so I'm asking about your personal opinion.
That anyone should be forced to give up their bodily autonomy to save the life of another person, even if you're considering a fetus to be a baby, even if you're considering a baby from the beginning.
So then why did you bring up the personhood thing? You just said, look, I would...
That's how I feel. But I don't believe that the way that I feel should necessarily decide what other people do with their bodies and their lives.
You don't think that your conclusions are sound? You don't think that you perceive the truth?
I'm just not...
You don't think your logic is too good?
I think that believing that my perspective is universally correct, I think that that's hubris. I'm a human being.
But you came here to tell me that my views are wrong and your views are right.
I do believe that people
hubris?
have the right to self-determination very firmly.
But you would force me to live in a society that tolerates abortion.
I don't think that you're being personally affected by that. It's not affecting your right to self-determination. It's not affecting the way that you live your life.
Right. So you're forcing me to base my political judgments on your conception of self-determination. Don't you think that's a little coercive? Isn't that a little bit of hubris that you're...
But let's bring this down from the abstract, because I think this is where the real concern should be. This isn't just a philosophy debate. There are real people, especially young people, whose lives are being shaped by these definitions that struggle to hold up under questioning. When a teenage girl hears that womanhood is just characteristics associated with females usually, what message does that send? It suggests that being female isn't actually what makes her a woman. It's performing the right characteristics. And if she doesn't fit those characteristics, if she's uncomfortable with the social expectations placed on girls, if she doesn't connect with makeup or dresses or traditional femininity, the implication becomes, maybe you're not really a woman at all. Maybe you're non-binary. Maybe you're trans. Do you see the problem there? We've gone from women can be anything to, if you don't fit the stereotype, you might not actually be a woman. That's not the progress we were promised. That's a regression wrapped in progressive language. And for someone like Demi, who genuinely believes in this framework, I'm not questioning the sincerity of that belief. But I do wonder whether anyone helped work through the logical implications before life-altering decisions were made. Because if the definition of the thing you're transitioning towards struggles to survive a 10-minute conversation without internal contradictions, that raises questions about the foundation those decisions were built on. This is why I keep coming back to this issue. not because I want to argue about pronouns or bathrooms for their own sake, but because there are young people right now being told that these definitions are settled, that the framework is solid, that if you question it, you're causing harm. And then you watch exchanges like this, and you see the definitions shift from concrete to subjective to accidentally referencing biology in the span of 60 seconds. In my opinion, young people deserve better than you just know in your soul. They deserve frameworks that can withstand honest questions. They deserve definitions that remain consistent under examination. They deserve adults who will say, wait, let's think this through carefully, instead of affirming every feeling without deeper exploration. And that's why this conversation mattered. Not because Michael embarrassed anyone, but because the logical tensions became visible. The definition kept circling back to biological sex as a reference point, and once you see that pattern, it raises real questions about whether this framework can function without the very foundation it's trying to move away from. So, what do you think of this? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.